Rogue Radio. Now available on Mixcloud at mixcloud.com/Rogue Country. Keep it rogue.
You know the deal by now, guys. As always, we are brought to you by Rogue Radio and Rogue Country. I'm really fucking happy to be working with these guys. I always find new music. I always find new things to get passionate and excited about. People kind of talk about you lose interest in music after you turn 25. It's just everything that you like is just nostalgia driven, and that's just not true, man. If you actually give a shit about music, which I assume you do because you listen to this podcast, but when you really care about music, it doesn't matter when it was made. What matters is the feeling and the emotion behind it. And Rogue Radio and Rogue Country do a really good job of playing the legends that do pull on your nostalgia heartstrings and you do make you think about those good old days, but they also fucking just platform amazing modern artists. And to me, there's no other better platform for modern roots, country, folk and blues singers than Rogue Country. So please go check them out. If you're listening to this podcast and you think I can do better, I want to voice my opinions on things, I'm passionate about this subject, I really love this type of music, go do it. We can work together on this. I'm an affiliate for Podbean now, which is a cool thing, where if you sign up using the link www.podbean.com/intothevan and sign up, you get a month free and I get a month free. So, it's mutually beneficial. If you want to start a podcast, which I 100% recommend you do, there's no difference to what I do here than when I play on stage. People have this mental barrier of, is my opinion worthwhile? Is my voice worth being heard? Surely someone will listen to it. And it doesn't matter how many people do, as long as you are creative and you give a shit, people will gravitate towards it. So head over to www.podbean.com/intothevan. Sign up through there. You'll get a month free. I'll get a month free. And it'll just be a beautiful thing where people are creating podcasts and, interesting things they care about and releasing them into the world for other people to enjoy. So go do that now. As always, we are brought to you by my record, The Next Life. I'm super fucking stoked on this record. It's my debut album. It took me, 2 years to record. It's on vinyl, it's on CD, it's on digital. And yeah, these 9 tracks mean the world to me. It's the hill I'm dying on for the foreseeable future. So I'm going to drop in a little teaser now.
I've done, say a father to son, and let this worldly view grow. Do what you can and love what you do, for it's a long and lonely road. It's a long and lonely road. It's a long and lonely road. I've done, say a father to son. There's a difference between money and wealth. It's never the power, it's never the title, never the money itself, never the money itself, never the money itself.
And I really hope you dig it. If you do, head over to mikewest333.bandcamp.com and you can pick up a copy there. Yeah, I'm so happy I get to do this podcast. I get to talk to people I didn't really know about before. Austin Stirling reached out to me and, was like, hey, you've had a few of my friends on your podcast. Can I jump on? I checked out his music and was like, fucking hell yes, let's do this. Booked him in and had this amazing talk. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about reaching people that I've really known about before. And I talk about in this podcast, I wanted it to be a face-to-face podcast. I didn't want to have to do virtual meetings, but I'm so glad that I broke that rule pretty quick off the bat because I wanted to talk to interesting people. If you are wondering where any UK artists are, I've got them lined up because I know once COVID dies down, once this pandemic breaks, I will be seeing them soon. We will be doing these face-to-face podcasts. So why have them on now to do virtual ones when I can meet them face-to-face, have a drink with them, have a catch-up, and make it a proper experience? So in the meantime, I'm exploring the people who are reaching out to me. I'm, thinking of the people that I think are interesting to talk to and reaching out to them. And I'm so fucking glad that Austin reached out to me about this podcast, because I had a blast talking to him. It's a diverse conversation, as well as trying to find out about his music and stuff. It's finding out about him as a person, and I think we really connected on this. It was a really fucking fun talk. So let's do it, guys. Without further ado, this is Mike West and Austin Stirling. Welcome to Into the Van with me, Mike West. Awesome. So we're rolling in, and this is it's not I don't have questions really lined up and stuff. It's more just a conversation and stuff. But obviously, with everything that's happened, I don't know if you've had an issue, but this week seems to have just been, I've been super just depressed about the state of music and things. Obviously, cancelled shows all last year. And then I was just kind of sitting here this week, and it was I don't have anything to really book. I don't have any gigs. I don't have anything to really push. And it was just kind of feeling that kind of stagnation and stuck in the mud. I don't know if you've been grappling with that feeling lately or since last year.
Yeah, man, I think we all have, if because it sucks that as musicians, we have to be on the road really to make money nowadays. Most musicians, we got to be on the road playing consistently, and not only just to kind of survive and make a living, but also to stay relevant and stay in front of people and stay connected. So that's taken away, and now we're left to try to figure out this whole online thing, which some people really like that, and they enjoy being all techie. I don't really enjoy that. To me, it takes away from writing songs and playing music and stuff like that. So that sucks, and that's been kind of an ongoing struggle, but I'm getting closer. I've got maybe another month, and I'm going to have a whole live stream set up here at home to where it sounds good. And that was the other thing, was I didn't want to do the live stream and it sounded like garbage for people,
Yeah, that's always the thing. And one of the things that kind of bummed me out was last week in the UK. On top of the pandemic taking tours away, we had Brexit, which meant we were no longer part of the EU, which means I can't gig Europe anymore, easily, which fucking sucks because I love Europe. Yeah. But then we have the Performing Rights Society who collect royalties and shit over here. And they decided to add a fee to live stream gigs. So if you wanted to do a live stream gig, you had to pay them a fee to then...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so then you had to pay them, I think it was £20 or something. If you were going to make less than 250 quid, you needed to pay them a fee to get a license, so they would then collect royalties on your behalf down the line.
That's in the UK?
And that was in the UK, and it's been a huge kickoff, and there's been other places like the Music Venue Trust have kicked off about it. And they've said we aren't going to do it as long as venues are closed. But once venues are open again, all live streams are going to have a fee on them. So I'm I'm going to leave the PRS after this because it's just a bullshit dick move. But that was another thing on top of feeling shit about this. It was another little kick when you're down for live streams as well.
Yeah. That's crazy. Because there's probably plenty of people that wouldn't even cover that from a live stream. If they're doing it weekly or something like that, they're probably, they might not even get that from from a live stream. So then they have to pay out of pocket. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I just don't know what it is about the music and creative industry where there's always a middleman who seems to take a bigger cut than the people who are actually creating it and the people who are enjoying it.
Yeah. I think about it often. It's weird. Unfortunately, it's a weird thing. We can sit here and we can bitch about streaming and all that kind of stuff. And I'm guilty of it too. I gripe about it, but I also use Apple Music. You know what I mean? And I stream everything. I don't buy CDs or albums, and um, and it is super convenient. And I understand why people like it. It just sucks because there is that middleman who's totally like taking advantage of it. And unfortunately, we as consumers are just enabling him, the middleman to be able to like basically capitalize on everybody's hard work and creativity. Yeah, I wish a good scenario came out to fix it.
Yeah, man, I'm hoping that like people kind of talk about how this is everyone's taking a step back and reassessing how shit actually works, and I'm hoping the music industry gets a rejig, because it is just middlemen constantly just taking a huge cut of things, and you never understand why. Like with the PRS thing, it was like, we're going to charge you for a live stream, and I was like, I like messaged them and stuff, and I was like, so you're charging me to play my music in my house on my internet connection, and I have to pay you for that?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah. I was like, go fuck yourselves. Like,
that's crazy. Are people just not paying them and just doing it?
People are just flat out refusing, and I know a lot of people are canceling their memberships and stuff. This is a bigger backlash, and I'm hoping it leads to a change, but who knows at the moment.
Yeah, man. I think if everybody just kind of put their foot down, was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Then they wouldn't have a choice. They can't.
Yeah.
I mean, they can try to fine everybody or whatever. I don't know. Smack you on the back of the hand. I don't even know what the repercussions are.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, they can do whatever they want. They can go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
But, going back to you and your music, Salve, your album came out in 2017. How long have you been performing under, as Austin Stirling?
Yeah. Man, 4.5 years just under my name. I think something like that, maybe coming on to 5 years. Yeah, it was, so it's Salve pronounced. It's actually a Latin term. I probably should have thought a little bit ahead that, people read it. They're like, well, not everybody's going to read Latin and notice that that's recognized as a Latin term. But yeah, like I came out with Salve, I think coming up on like 5 years, 4.5 years ago, something like that. And just had to transition from like, because I was going as the Hangdog Hearts, and I needed to just kind of transition from that. It was too confusing because I play with such a mismatch of musicians and different lineups, and sometimes I'm solo, and I'm playing like different styles of music here and there. Sometimes it's like real singer-songwriter. Like these next handful of songs I'm releasing this year are all like very like singer-songwriter, like straight down the middle. But as we get into the fall, I'm gonna start releasing like more rootsy, kind of creepy music. So yeah, I think it maybe afforded me like a little bit more flexibility, and stopped confusing people. They were coming to shows like, hey, where's this musician or that drummer or that bass player, and I just got tired of explaining.
That's really interesting. So with the Hangdog Hearts, it was more of like a collective things, and it was still me solo. When we first started, didn't even really like mean to start it off this way, but it just happened that there was like 7 of us in a band, and we just got together to jam, and I wrote a couple songs, and nobody else would get up to sing, and I don't consider myself a singer, so I would be the only guy that got up on the mic to actually sing the songs when we were just in a buddy's garage jamming. Then we were kind of like, man, we're actually not too bad. Like we're actually pretty tight, and the songs we felt like they were pretty good. So we just spent like a solid year playing open mics, and then we started getting like booked for gigs and stuff like that. But then people just kept falling off, and we'd bring somebody else in new, and that they would fall off. And before I knew it, like the whole band was just gone, and it was just me, and we had gigs booked. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm playing these solo. So the Hangdog Hearts thing turned into me just trying to keep it going. Yeah.
And then I still tried to like build the band up. I've always wanted just like a solid band, you know. I don't like playing with, I love the people I play with, but I want like a tight knit group,
Yeah. You
you
want like
know.
a stability to it and a
Yeah, stability to it and all that kind of stuff. And it's just never worked out, you know. Um, so it always just kind of turned into me just, you know, keeping things moving. And so I had to kind of, I didn't want to use my name, you know. I don't think that highly of myself to where I need to like call it me.
mm,
But after a while, I just kind of, just like I got forced into singing,
yeah.
that's not what I really wanted to do. I just kind of want to sit in the back and jam, you know. Um, but I got pushed into it, you know. It's like if I wanted to do it, then this is what I have to do. If I
Yeah.
want to play music, this is, so this is the same thing. Like if I wanted to keep it going, I kind of need to accept the fact that I'm a solo artist. So yeah.
No, it's definitely a fine line because I was in a band when I was like 20 odd, and the second like the thread starts to unravel on a band, it's so hard to try and keep it together and bring people in. And then even if you do bring someone else in, like the dynamic changes and stuff. And
Yeah.
that is the freedom of being a solo artist that is pretty like unparalleled. And it's a big thing that like as a solo artist, I want to put a band together and stuff, but I want to have a bit more control over things because you can literally like someone will be like, can you do a gig here? And you'll go, yeah, because I don't need to check with anyone else to do it. And the more people get added, like the more complex it gets, and that then removes it from the most important thing is to actually play the music.
Right. Yeah. And it is, in a lot of ways, it's a lot less headache. You know, it's unfortunate, you know, especially, you know, before I was married, you know, I did a lot of tours just by myself. And you know, I did many tours with friends, people playing with me, but I did a lot just alone, you know, me driving for hours just in my van. And, you know, I'm an introvert, so I like my alone time, but like that even got kind of lonely, you know, like I was like, this, this sucks, you know. I'd like to hang out with some people and have fun and joke and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's pros and cons to it, but I think at this point, I'm used to steering the ship and making the decisions and stuff and having kind of say so of where things are headed.
Yeah.
You know, so I think somebody would really have to prove to me that they are going to be like a dedicated part of like the band and that I can rely on them for me to like give up some control.
Yeah, man.
Know? Which I'd love that. I'd love if that was the case and would happen. You know.
Cool, man. You were saying about like that like reticentness or reluctance to use your name like Austin Stirling was the because obviously there's like the White Buffalo, Amigo the Devil, Beans on Toast and stuff who perform under monikers. Did you think about carrying on with like the Hangdog Hearts as just like the name, or did you think of anything else? Well, then because I use like obviously I perform under Mike West. That's like a shortened version of my first and last name.
Yeah.
But again, it was like, did I miss an opportunity to name it something else and name this project something different that's not just a name?
Yeah, I think another big part of it, you know, so Hangdog Hearts happened and then my wife and I got married. And once we got married, I kind of faced reality. I'm like, I'm doing this really difficult, very demanding career. And I've got my foot in both, you know, music full time and then this very like challenging career. So I need to make up my mind. I can't have my foot in one or the other. Well, this career that I was in, I was heading into taking over the company and just really basically just being set, like, you know, hard work and stuff like that. But like literally, I mean, I was looking at making more money than I can even explain, you know, and it just seemed like socially the thing I should do, you know. So I did that for a year. I quit playing music. I didn't play music. I was off social media. I barely picked up my guitar, and it was depressing as all hell. Like my wife was just like, "You're not yourself." Is that ding coming through?
Yeah, just a touch, but it's fine.
Text messages and stuff. But it was a difficult. So my wife finally was just like, "No, you're not. You're playing music. You're not gonna do this. You know, like you can do your job or whatever, but you got to play music." So, anyways, push came to shove, and I just decided to leave that career and all that money and do what's where I really feel like I can be used to like reach people. In that industry, all I was doing is yelling at people, and having to get on people about money and stuff like that. And I don't like that.
No.
It was soul sucking for me. So walked away from it. And so I think a big part of that shift was needing to make a new change, like a new kind of a new identity, a new goal of like why I'm doing this. So that was another kind of reason for the name change.
Cool, man. No, that's really like admirable. Like I know, like I'm getting married in October, and it was you have this kind of societal like nagging of you need to be stable, you need to provide, like a stable family, get an income that's completely regular and stuff. And that is not necessarily detrimental to being a musician and being creative, but it's definitely a hindrance to it. And you realize that if you have a supportive like wife or a partner like Siv, she's like great. She's been to all my gigs and stuff. She understands that this is what I need to do. It's not something I want. And I think if you have that partner, and it sounds like you've got the same, where it's like they understand that this is what it is.
Yeah. And we did our homework. We didn't just flightily, I see people making big life moves and stuff, big changes because, well, I feel like I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to open this store because that's where my drive and my passion is and everything. But they don't do the homework of like,
No.
Okay, financially, what does that look like? My wife and I sat down for the better part of 6 months or more, almost every night. We looked at our finances. We talked about it. We talked about the pros and cons. We whiteboard a lot. So we got whiteboards. Well, you can see my big whiteboard behind me. But we got 2 whiteboards in our bedroom that we just are constantly scribbling stuff on. And we were constantly throwing ideas, pros and cons, and weighing it all out and trying to really think of every angle. And luckily for us, like financially, we live way below our means and we don't really want for much, there's things everybody kind of has it in them. There's a guitar I'd like to buy. There's, this piece of music gear I'd like to get, but we really are good about being pretty realistic. It's like, I don't really need that. It's just going to be a waste of money and a waste of space once it gets here. And so we don't really need a lot to survive on, and luckily it's hard at times, especially right now where it feels like it's hard for me to like make money and contribute. It's really difficult, but really, man, like I look at this as like a ministry for me. Like it's just my way of like being kind to other people and like trying to like change other people's lives. And I'm not saying I'm trying to get everybody saved and make them believe in God or anything like that, but even just like spread some like goodness to other people. Like this is my way of doing that, you know? And just being kind and loving to people. Like I feel more like myself being a musician and doing this full time than I did when I had to go to a construction site and yell at people, you know?
Yeah, man. Like the music thing, you don't realize that like it seems stupid and people talk about it so much, but at the heart of all music is you're trying to connect with someone. And that's, I think, what this kind of pandemic and situation is showing is like when you kind of lose that connection is like when you start on shaky ground as like a musician is like you kind of lose sight of what you were doing it for. And like even I miss like one of the big things about playing live was you get to scream for like half an hour or an hour or 2 hours and you get to like vent and decompress and it takes like a stress off you and that's bubbling back up. But it's an interesting thing to just see that music is this thing that needs spreading. Like it's always a necessity. Like even with all the pandemic and everything, people worrying about venues closing and stuff. The one thing that is certain is music isn't going away. Like venues might, but music won't.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say there at the end?
So it's just like venues will go away, but music won't.
Yeah, and luckily we have the internet to where we can still share all that. And you know, I don't. It's a crazy time, man. It's crazy, but you know, I think on the other side of this, hopefully, music followers, like people that appreciate music, hopefully that'll open their eyes a little bit more to like how much musicians really rely on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no possible way musicians can survive if people aren't willing to go out to shows, and it's impossible.
Yeah.
If you're out playing shows and people don't and make the effort to come out and see people play, hopefully they see the importance of that.
Hopefully, like I've been seeing a lot of like you see like artists like Ed Sheeran or Adele, whoever, are like holed up in their mansions. They don't need to do anything. And if people kind of don't realize that that's all they'll be stuck with if they don't support like the grassroots stuff, is you're going to be stuck with these popular artists that people always complain about. And it's always the people who are rallying for like, I want that darker stuff. I want that roots music that I haven't heard yet. Like, I want that different, challenging thing. And they don't realize that that's going to go away if these like artists aren't supported and like platformed.
Yeah. And I think we all feel that at times. Like I'm in this wholeheartedly for the long haul, man, but there are days where I'm just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing, like yeah. I don't know what I'm doing here. And it's a drag, it can be really tiring. And it's I thought working in the construction industry and being a general contractor and stuff like that was pretty difficult and stressful mentally, but there's in a different way, this is even more mentally trying, because you have people's voices in your head, just kind of telling you, I've said this on other podcasts, but I've had people make comments, and I've got a couple people in my life that are very very negative towards the whole what I do, and very kind of tell me that I'm really not accomplishing anything, that it's not a real job, stuff like that. And as much as I don't believe them, it's hard, Yeah,
it's still great. It's like, even like if you've got like the most like strong constitution, like a constant torrent of negative comments just eventually chips away at like even the strongest like will.
Yeah. It is hard, but luckily I got my wife. She's in my corner, and she's so supportive, and it sounds like you know what that's all about.
Yeah, because it's even, you were saying about like, people need music to get through stuff, but the musicians need those people as well. Because I know I've been down in the dumps the last like couple of weeks, and just someone has like messaged me or commented on something being like, oh, I was listening to this, or I've picked up this, and it's like, oh, fucking that's like a huge deal. Even just one person giving a shit like can pull you through it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, man. So what's it been like over in the UK as far as like lockdowns and stuff like that? Are you guys still dealing with all that?
Yeah, so we're in like another national lockdown that I think they're looking at easing up in March or April, and that's been since the end of January, I think. And I don't know what it's going to be like, but I also, like, since this kicked off, like, I remember reading about it in January of last year and kind of bracing myself, and mentally I've depressed everyone I've said this to, but I've written off up until 2024, basically, especially from like a UK standpoint, because not only is it the pandemic, we've got Brexit, which has decimated EU touring. And it's meaning that I'm going to have to rely on UK touring, which isn't, you know, like I love the venues I've played in the UK and I love UK fans, but Europe, you've played there. Like Europe is such an amazing, welcoming place to go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been an issue. So I don't know what the UK scene's going to look like coming out of lockdown and coming into like this new, you know, whatever the music industry and music venues are going to be. But again, with the challenges, like at the moment, I've got a camper van that I tour out of. And I'm looking at just buying some shit to build a stage that I can put to the way the door opens.
Yeah.
And I'll fucking play houses and I'll play fucking car parks. And
Yeah.
anything that I can do that'll be interesting and fun for me. And I get to like hang out with people who I know will dig it. I'll just do that. So that's where my head is at the moment for what the UK is. And you know, the UK, I'm building my own stage and I'm going to travel around a bit is what I'm looking at.
That's great, man. I mean, you got to do something, and I'm hoping the house show circuit kind of gets a little bit bigger and people start, if the venues aren't going to be allowed to have music, you know, hopefully some of these people who are like all about it will say, you know, like, do this, we're going to have music ourselves, you know. So I don't know, we'll see, but I think that's a great idea. Build a stage.
Yeah, it's just something to kind of like break the monotony. But you've toured obviously the US, and in your bio you've toured like over like 16 other countries and stuff. What have your experiences been touring in the US and then compared to like say like Europe? Have you been over to the UK before?
No, we tried to get over there, but it was just too, I think the restrictions and things were a little trickier than jumping from Europe to the UK.
Yeah, that's what I always hear, man. Like I was talking to 20 Watt Tombstone and they played Europe and I was like, are you going to come over to the UK as well? And they were like, it's just a ball ache, which again, with Brexit has just added like another level of ball ache to it. But yeah, what have your experiences been touring?
Well, so my first tour was really interesting. I was over when I was in the US. This is however many, I don't even know how many years ago this was. There's still a lot of smoking in the bars here in the US. But I was playing and I was losing I could only go maybe 3-4 shows. I was losing my voice. I'd play like 1, 2, 3, and then my voice would get weaker and weaker and I would be losing. I'm like, am I just blowing my voice every night? Like, what is going on? And so then we booked a Europe tour for 38 nights, 38 days straight, a show every night. I was kind of worried because I'm like, man, I can't even get through 3 shows without my voice blowing. And we got over and it was completely fine. And the only difference was there was no smoking in the bars in Europe.
No way.
And so I discovered that I'm allergic to cigarette smoke. But it was such a eye-opening thing that I was like, that's awesome. So when I came back to the US, I started requesting to bars and venues. I'm like, no smoking during my set because I can't. I'll lose my voice and all that kind of other stuff. But that was really interesting. That was one of the biggest like differences I saw. But now most of the places there's no smoking in the US. There's still some. You go to some podunk town and they'll have, everybody's got a cigarette, and it's disgusting. But
is it like a law in the US now? Because I know in the UK that it's just a flat out law that there's no smoking indoors and in pubs and things.
Well, the US, it's kind of like everything else. It's state by state, and then you get to some counties who get to make their own decisions on certain things. So, a certain state might say, I think almost every state it's illegal, but I think you get into some counties and they're like, we're fine. Yeah. Or there's some towns that are just small enough and nobody cares. They just go smoke, even if it's illegal or whatever. And that's fine, whatever. I mean, to me, that's kind of the beauty in America a little bit is like, if everybody in this area is cool with it, then like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like you guys do your thing, I just won't come play your bar.
Yeah. I remember when like the smoking ban came in, I remember I went to this club I always went to, like this biker bar. I remember I saw like the ceiling and shit for the first time. I remember walking in and there wasn't just like a cloud of
Yeah.
smoke like 4 foot thick, like
Yeah.
past like 7 foot up. It was crazy, man. Like how much that like law changed stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty wild what the smoke does in those bars and the soot on the ceiling tiles and stuff that you can see, and it's nastier than people realize. But yeah, man, people are very much more supportive in Europe as towards the arts, towards music. They treat musicians 10 times better than they do over here. I mean, we would go places and people are feeding us and, you know, really cared, like making sure that we had somewhere to sleep, you know, and there are people that do that over here, but not like in Europe.
No.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I remember in Europe when I was like booking stuff and you were like, "What's your fee?" And I'd say it, and then you'd be like, "Okay, and do you want bed and boarding as well?" And I was like, "Is that a thing?" Like, holy shit, that's
Yeah, it was awesome. But I'm kind of weird, man. When I'm on tour anymore, I stay in hotels and stuff because I don't like staying at random people's places. Um, I don't party, you know. I don't drink or anything, so it's really hard. Like I love hanging out and talking to people and stuff like that, but it kind of comes to this point where people want to like party and drink all night.
yeah.
I can't do that. I'm tired. Like we play the show and I can chat for like an hour and a half or so, and then I am just exhausted. I want to go to bed. I don't get the liquid energy, you know, like liquid courage, like drink, and then I'm like all revved up to go the rest of the night. So I like staying in hotels and stuff, you know.
Yeah, man. I've got my camper van that I sleep in for the most part, and then like if I was playing a gig and they had accommodation, I'd be like, "Let me see it first."
Right, yeah. Yeah, I know. I always ask. I'm like, what does that mean? You know, I've had multiple venues say we have accommodations. And I showed up, and literally, the accommodation was you can sleep on the stage when we close. So there were a couple places I played where I slept on the stage before anybody was even closed. I just laid down behind the monitors and you know, my blanket and just passed out on the stage. And you know, you're smelling all these weird smells off the stage that you're like, you don't know what it is. And so yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, what are the accommodations?
Yeah. Like with coming over to Europe and touring and stuff, was that off the back of your first album, or was it like, did you have kind of like rumblings in Europe of people who were digging your stuff so you came over, or was it like as like a what's the word to kind of advertise like a new album and try and engage with people?
There were people in Europe that were asking me to come over, and I got a couple emails from a handful of people saying, if you come over, we will book you shows. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. I can be there in June or whatever it was. And they started kind of booking shows, and then I think they didn't mean to. I think they got to a point where they're like, "Oh man, I'm having trouble booking to make your time worth it." So then they passed me on to another guy that really kind of took over and tour management and stuff like that. And he drove for me, and you know, and we toured all over. It was a blast. But luckily enough, I had people that were asking me to come over, and you know, kind of took it from there. So, which was really cool.
Yeah, cool, man. I saw when I was like doing a bit of research for this podcast, because you did an interview with Tom from Old Style Music Nights in Belgium.
Yeah,
who's a fucking great guy, who's a huge supporter of like roots and the scene. And
yeah, man.
I think if anyone
he
goes
was
to
he was one of the guys that hit me up about coming over. Yeah, and then he hooked me up with Kurt DeBont.
Yeah, from Roots Town.
Yeah. So, and I think I was Kurt's like first full out tour management thing.
Nice.
And once he got his feet wet with me, I think he quit his job, and then he started doing, which was really cool to kind of like share that with
Yeah.
him. And I love Kurt. Like, I wish I could come back over.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to for a couple years, and it financially it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
For where I'm at, unfortunately. I'm when I do, I'm hoping I break even. When I do go over there, and then when I get back to the US, I was hoping it would like give me some clout with venues and stuff, and they would take me more serious. No.
Really?
Yeah, they're still kind of like, okay, how long can you play and how cheap?
No.
It's still it doesn't matter what you've done or whatever. So
yeah, it's crazy, man. It seems that like in the UK and in Europe, like an American act coming over has this kind of weight and a prestige to it that doesn't, like, if I were like play in the UK, like it doesn't have that same thing.
Right.
But it's weird how it doesn't translate kind of the other way. And because you always hear about like UK or EU acts trying to break the States. And
Yeah.
it never seems to be. People just need to like work their ass off and chip away at it. But what do you reckon, like, the dividers? Do you think it's because, Roots is an American art form, like almost where it's like that's the pioneers of it?
I think the US is just tough, man. Like, there's so much over here, and there's so many people doing so many different things, and everything is so accessible, and they have a different mindset than like when I'm over. I see how people in Europe are towards music. Like, people in the US are just very, they just take it for granted, really. To be honest. And so you're trying to go and break into a place where people are spoiled and they take it for granted, and you're trying to go, and it's hard, man. One out of every 20 people are really going to sit and listen and appreciate, and I felt it like in Europe, it was like 8 out of every 10 people were sitting and appreciating.
Yeah.
It's just the drastic difference. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's such a crazy thing. But what's the scene like? Because you're in North Salem, is it, in Indiana?
Yeah, now I'm in a small town called Pittsboro. We moved from North Salem. We had a house fire and we lost our house and had to move from the family farm. So now we're in a small town in Pittsboro, about 20 minutes away from North Salem. I'm actually kind of 20 minutes closer to Indianapolis, the city. But yeah, what was the question?
Is there like a root scene around you guys, or is it, do you have to travel?
No, man, it's a very kind of small town. I don't know of any bars. There's a couple bars the next town over that have like cover bands, but you got to go into Indianapolis and to get like live music, stuff like that. And even at that, like, original live music is very, it struggles. If you're in a cover band, you can play every night of the week and make a living easily. But if you're playing originals and stuff, you're gonna have to tour.
It's crazy, man, how like similar the US sounds to the UK in terms of that kind of narrow-minded like focus, and like the cover bands here are huge, and that's all people really want to hear. And it's weird because America, especially like as a British person, it's so like mythicized to be this huge place where, obviously there's all the stories about people not making it and things, and it's a struggle, but it's always kind of pitched as this is the place to go to be heard. And it's weird when you hear people like kind of contradicting and saying that it is a grind. You've got the cover bands to compete against, and trying to find that niche is really hard.
Yeah. I think like anything, there are pros and cons. I think there are a lot of there's probably some truths into that, on some level, but for the most part, it's like the people that move to Hollywood because they want to become a star, they want to become an actor, and then they get there and they realize literally every waiter, every bellhop, everybody moved there to be somebody, and they realize it is very oversaturated, and it is, it's kind of like, and I might make some people mad when I say this, but it's kind of like Nashville. I personally think Nashville is a joke in the sense of people wanting to move there to become a star. Now I will say there's truth in you move there and it's like moving to Hollywood to be a actor, and it's like everybody's an actor. You need to move to Nashville and it seems like everybody's a musician and everybody's a really good musician. And then you realize how far you have to go. You're like, whoa, I'm not near as good as I thought I was. Because you move and you see these people who are struggling right alongside of you and they're 10 times better than you, and that's why I laugh, because I've known a handful of people that are like, I'm moving to Nashville, I'm going to become a songwriter. And I'm like, do you realize like the songwriting scene is almost more overly saturated than the like musicians on tour doing, because I'm like, breaking into that world that's tough. That's real tough, it's and then people are hit with the the harsh reality of what they move there and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of really talented people here, which is really cool if you want to build a band with some really super talented people, but you're gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah.
They're not doing it for free.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, man. But with like yourself, it seems like you've gone around the beaten path, and I know doing some research for this and stuff, like how you kind of approach things is different, and you've popped up on a few different podcasts. Obviously, you reached out to myself to do one. Do you think that's kind of an advantage? That because I know everyone kind of jokes about podcasts popping up and everyone does them, but no one's really utilizing them in the music world, right? Really, like there's obviously you see like the LA comic scene of Joe Rogan and all those folks using podcasts, but you don't see musicians kind of taking it up really. Like, have you seen, like, was that in your head when you started trying to like get on some, or
like getting on to chat like with people like you and stuff like that? Not really, man. I'm honestly, I'm bad at self-promotion. I don't enjoy it, and I don't think that highly of myself to where I have like tons of ideas of like, ooh, I think people would love to hear this about me and hear this about me. Like, I'm just not that big of a douche to think that I'm that cool,
Yeah.
So the self-promotion thing, the social media, the online stuff, it's a thorn in my side, and I understand it's necessary. I like doing podcasts. Like I like getting on and just chatting with people. I mean, you're in the UK right now, and I'm sitting in Pittsburgh, Indiana, in my studio or whatever. It's just kind of, it's funny, and that's cool to me.
Yeah.
But I'm slowly trying to get better about that stuff. So seeking out podcasts and trying to talk to people, or actually responding if somebody hits me up about a podcast. Cause I used to I would respond, I'd be polite and be like, hey, thanks for hitting me up. Not right now.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't want to do it. But I have to. I really should.
Yeah.
As much as I like to, but I try to be strategic about what I do things, but I also, there's this premise of buckets. So you've got 8 buckets in front of you, and each one of them holds a thing that you're into. Like, I really like building things. I really like doing this. I like drawing. I like art. I like video games, or whatever the things that people are into. It's like you only have so much time for what's in those buckets.
Yeah.
So like choose your buckets wisely, maybe narrow it down to 2 or 3 and really engulf yourself in those things. So that's kind of what I try to do. That's kind of how I try to compartmentalize priority, what is worth my time and things like that. And and it goes into every avenue. I look at shows that way. I'll get offered a show. It's can you come play for 4 hours for the door? No, no, I can't do that. It just doesn't make sense for me. So that goes in a bucket that I'm not gonna.
Yeah, that's a dry bucket that's in the corner with like a cobweb in it and shit.
Yeah, that's just not. I don't have time for that. So I try to be smart and strategic, but
cool, man. That makes the most sense, like with the marketing and things. And I think if I didn't have this podcast this year and a bit, would have been really fucking boring. This has been something that's like been fun for me as a person to do. To obviously, you're in Indiana, and I get to like talk to people that I enjoy their music of and get to chat and stuff. So that's a bonus for me. Like I've had a few people like request this, or I've thought, and I'm like, would I actually enjoy doing that, or is it just ticking a box and stuff? And it's a really interesting thing is like where you focus your time, because you only have a limited amount in a day and in a lifetime and stuff.
Yeah. You're good at it too, man. Like just talking, like a lot of people, because over the years I have done a lot of, whether it's a podcast or kind of a radio interview or whatever it is. A lot of people you're ready. You got a question ready. You got topics, like you keep it going. A lot of people don't do that, man. And it is, those are rough. Those are hard to like talk with people back and forth and banter off each other, and I don't know how they expect their podcast to grow, because people don't want to sit and listen, and then there's that weird dead air, it's like kind of like people don't like that, So.
Yeah, no, it's a weird balance, man. Like what I do is like, for a little behind like the veil, I've got a Word document that I've kind of highlighted of like shit from like stuff you've sent me of a bio, like, and things that I've kind of highlighted that I think are interesting. But also as I'm like thinking about what this podcast is going to be, I'm just kind of like thinking about what I actually give a shit about in terms of what I've been thinking about that day. And then I just kind of see if you'd be interested in what I've been thinking about for that day. Because it's just something that like, because at the end of the day, I want it to be a conversation. I want it to be something that you find value in, because I've done radio and things and you get asked like the same, like what are your influences? And I sometimes like to ask that question and stuff, but you get the same like 5 or 6 questions. I remember once in one radio thing, I got this really weird question of like, are these people attractive or not? Like pulling up like these celebrities, and I was like, come on, man. Like,
yeah, but you do a good job, man. And I think you're like, your interest in what you're doing, it comes through, because I think it's very natural for you, and you seem excited about what you're doing,
Thank you, man. The only thing like I'm gutted about this podcast is it's called Into the Van, and I wanted it to be out the back of my camper. And the first few episodes I did were face to face, and like you actually get to like talk to someone. And I wanted to set up a rule where I wasn't going to talk to anyone online that I didn't already know, because I didn't want to like do virtual meetings. I wanted to meet you face to face. But obviously that's never going to happen, and I get to talk to people like yourself now, which is a bonus and a benefit in and all itself. So that rule is completely gone out the window, because why would I limit myself? I wouldn't get to talk to like people like you. But it's just a weird thing with like how you view your creative process and how you view like what you actually enjoy, because with whatever you're doing, like music or podcasting or art, it's like at the very, like if you boil everything down to it, you should enjoy it. And I think what you've done is you've taken the different styles of genres that you enjoy and fused them together, which has given you more freedom. Do you think with your albums and stuff, that's been a conscious effort to be like, I'm enjoying this thing more in like 2019 when you did the spring summer, and then you kind of draw that on for that record, and then like with Wolves you draw on something else?
I don't I honestly, I'm continually writing. I'm continually recording. I record it, I track everything here at home, I mix everything here at home. So I'm continually working on stuff.
Mm.
I might bounce away for 2 weeks and go build a piece of furniture or something. But for the most part, like I'm here in the studio, writing, recording, working on that stuff. And so I've constantly got songs in the works. And I got them all on this whiteboard. So like it's full of songs that I haven't released yet. And I've probably got 40 something songs to sift
That is
through.
a lot of whiteboard.
Yeah. And it comes further this way that you can't even see. But it's I'm so as I'm going along, I start to group the songs. I'm like, ooh, I really like this version, because I might write a song and record it 3-4 different times because I'm like, I don't like that. It's not working. Like I don't like how that take is. I don't like. So I'll just scrap it and completely start from scratch again. I'd push it on the back burner and put it on a hard drive, and back somewhere. But for the most part, so I'm continually going, and I'll start grouping the songs together like this. This goes with this song, this feel, and I'll start building albums as I'm going along. So then once I got one that's pretty close to like done, or I feel like it's a good time to put that album out, then I will start being like, okay, zeroing in on those songs. And that's what I did with, so this last group of songs are, like I said, very singer-songwriter. And then in the fall, I'm planning on doing these more very rootsy, banjo-driven type stuff. And then by the winter, my plan is I've got a group of, and it might be an EP, it might be 2, 3, it might be 6 songs, I don't know, of like heavy, darker, kind of doom metal-ish type stuff. So the beginning of the year is like singer-songwriter, then I'm going to end up in like this weird doomy, I don't even know what, harder stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how I do it,
Yeah. Cool, man. And like because you brought out a single, was it last week or the week before? Love, Death, and Wandering.
That was last Friday.
Yeah. Like that seemed like it seemed like a more fuller, like rich, like expanded sound compared to the banjo driven things you do and stuff. What was the process behind writing that single? When did that first like come to you?
So that song originally, the song's called Home. I put the Love, Death, and Drifting because that's going to be the album title by the time it's done. So
cool.
Each month it's going to be Home, Love, Death, Wandering, whatever. And then the next one's going to be Standing in the Rain. That's the next song for this month. So then by the time it's done, they'll all be on one album. Home originally was like a bluegrass song. Very bluegrassy, kind of a bluegrass kind of hop to it, And that's originally how I wrote it. That's how I tried to record it like twice. And I didn't like it. It sounded cheesy, watered down. It just didn't have the vibe I was wanting. And then I wrote out this really cool drum beat, and I was like, that's cool. And I just kind of sometimes when I do that, I'll just pick a song that I don't have a good recording of that I like. So I just happened to grab Home and played it to that beat, changed the chord progression, everything up, sang it differently, and it became a whole different song. I just used the lyrics, but I was like, dude, this is it. Like, I love how this sounds,
Yeah.
Because I've got, to me, it's more bluesy. It's definitely kind of rock and roll, you know what I mean? But like, I've got a handful of songs that are like more bluesy, almost not funk, but
it's got that vibe to it.
Yeah, like I've got a handful of songs that I'm just kind of waiting, and I might put them out this year or something. I don't know, but they're definitely, they don't sound anything like me, So.
And is that like a daunting thing to write those type of songs? And obviously you've got like 3 albums under you that at the moment as like your solo project. Is it daunting to write something where it has like a funk vibe to it and then wonder, because that's like when the fear starts coming in of you start thinking, are you writing for your audience or you're writing for yourself?
I think I'm more so than, well, I'm very, very confident. I definitely write for myself because if I tried to write anything, I had somebody recently hit me up, a close friend, and he was like, he was meaning well. I think he was drunk. He was messaging me, but he was like, "Man, you gotta do the darker, creepy, heavier stuff." He's like, "You gotta leave this like soft, basically the soft stuff that you're doing. You gotta leave that stuff, and you gotta do this, and you gotta write. You're not writing from the gut, basically." And I was just kind of like, "Okay, well, I appreciate you saying that, I guess," but it confirms to me because I can't. If I try to write a certain way, it is not good. It is not good at all. And I just have to, just like I grabbed that song home and played it to that drum beat, and I just kind of went with it, and I just liked it. I was like, this is cool. So I don't know. I've heard some people say like you're doing yourself a disservice because you're playing all these different styles of music under your name. So you're going to confuse people, and people aren't going to, you know, and maybe I don't, maybe that's true. I don't know. All I'm trying to do is like, I'm just trying to put out like the best songs that I can with what I got. And I don't have the capabilities to have a really good producer or a really good, I don't have the money to pay all these different musicians to just come in and play all these songs, with how much I write and record. So I'm trying to just do as much as I can myself.
Yeah, man. I think that's definitely like the best way, because you see artists like Sturgill Simpson who you can see as like definitive phases in albums, and people be like, well, I don't like Sailor's Guide to Earth because it isn't as bluegrassy as like High Top Mountain and stuff. It's like, then go listen to High Top Mountain. Those songs still exist, and it's the same thing as when you see like films reboot or remake and like, well, that's not as good as the original. I'm like, then go watch the fucking original then.
Right.
Like, you don't realize how hard it is to, like, as a musician, to keep creating something that's interesting for you. Like, I've got a song that's got a bit of like a blues, like chain gang riff to it. And one guy once was like, you just need to write like that. I'm like, do you know how hard it is to write a riff like that? That actually sounds interesting. That doesn't sound like any other riff that everyone else does. Like, there's only so much you can do on a 3 and a 5 on like the fretboard.
Yeah. And that's, I remember I started to play with a drummer friend of mine. It was just us, like a 2-piece. And I started to do a lot of open tune, garage, blues, slide guitar, started to play a lot of that stuff. And it was started to really it was really going that way. And I was just like, man, this is so like, there's only so much I can do within this realm.
Yeah.
As a 2-piece, and like, I'm an okay guitar player. I'm not fantastic, so my capabilities are going to reach, and they're just going to plateau. And so is the sound of what we're doing, so I kind of backed away from that, and but yeah, it's a reality of, I think I would be doing people a disservice. People that say that they like my music and they follow my music, I think I would be doing them a disservice to not show them fully who I am musically. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that goes with, hey, I'm going to put out this batch of songs and you might not like it because it's not the side of me that you're into. You probably like this other stuff better. But I'm trying to be honest and transparent and give you the best songs that I got. That I can write.
Yeah, man. Like,
so I'm always trying to do that.
Yeah, definitely. As a songwriter, it's important because it's not just, albums aren't just like yourself. It's yourself in that period of time, and it's yourself in that mind, like state of mind. So each album and each like release or each song is showing you a different part. And people don't necessarily get that, like, the same way that your mood changes, your songwriting changes. So it's like, this is what I wrote at this point of my life because this is how I was feeling. And they're like, but I wanted you at that. And I'm like, well, I was depressed back then, so I don't really want to write like that at the moment.
Yeah. I've heard people say, since you've gotten married, you're not writing near as like whatever and depressed, or you're not as like raw as you were. And the funny thing about that is a lot of the songs I still put out, I wrote before my wife and I were even together. So like I'm like, joke's on you, you know what I mean? And I think I'm kind of gifted in the area. I'm able to tap back into those times. I'm able to go back and remember what those breakups, those hard relationships were like. My wife and I still talk about, we're 5 years into our marriage. We still talk about our relationships before we were married. And I process those with her because it helps me, for one, like I appreciate her so much more. I'll tell her a story about, that I had with an ex that threw a drink, slapped me or something, or whatever it was. And I'll tell her this story, and what I'm doing in the process is remembering how bad it was and how good it is now.
Yeah.
And she does the same thing with me. So being able to do that with her is also, I feel like, helped me songwriting, because I feel free to like go back into those times and feel that emotion I felt, I've always been somebody that struggled with anger, I guess, just kind of like, just ready to tussle at any moment. And, just, I don't feel that way anymore, but like, I remember what it felt like, because it's still there. It's still there within me. I just got better at fighting that urge to throw down with somebody at any moment,
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm gifted in that way, that I've grown as a person, and even my soul is strengthened, but I can still go back into those times, and I don't know. I think that's other people's projections of like, you're not raw anymore. You're not, I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm lying to myself.
I also think it's because like once you do albums, like it's easy for people to start putting you into eras. So then like even when you look at Metallica, it's like you see them like, well, that was that young alcoholic phase. That was after they lost Cliff. This was when they grew up and cut their hair. And it's such a reductionist way of viewing people that I think not that many other like artists get put into those type of things, apart from like musicians, where they get so like decisively like, well, between 1973 and 1977 Kiss were good, and after that they sucked.
It's not fair. It's not fair to say that. I mean there probably are cases of musicians that just kind of gave up and they just started. One that I always think of when people like have this is the Offspring. Think of the Offspring. I remember way back in the day, their first handful of albums, it was very, punk rock, like, it kind of teetered towards like the pop punk, but that wasn't a thing yet. They were still just kind of playing songs, and they were writing punk songs, and they were playing, it wasn't Sex Pistols or anything like that, but like for that era, what punk was, they were doing it or whatever, whether people think it was good or bad. But then they started like writing shit like Pretty Fly for a White Guy. It's, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But whatever, they were making money off of it. And if that was their goal, cool, good for them. Like, they're cashing in, writing cheesy jingles basically, but like they're making money. But my son's like 13 now, and he's all about Metallica and Black Sabbath, Queens of the Stone Age. Like, he is like a little metalhead, but he's also learning, about, Ryan Adams and singer-songwriter stuff and all this other things. But it's interesting to watch because he loves the early Metallica stuff. He loves basically before the Black Album. That's like he loves it, and he has no he has no like reason to be like, oh, after the Black Album they suck or anything
Yeah.
like that. He just naturally is like, dude, I love the early thrash sound, you know. Um, and it's very because he's looking at it with fresh eyes, you know. Like we grew up seeing that stuff progress, so we don't have the fresh outlook on it. And it's really cool to see him, and he's like, he kind of confirms, like, yeah, this stuff was really good, you know.
Yeah.
The later stuff, but he's really like, but we'll sit and talk, and he's still like, but I really do like, you know, I do like their newer stuff too, even their like real recent stuff. He's like, it's still pretty cool, like I like it, but he's like, I prefer
Yeah.
Kill 'Em All and all that early stuff, you know. So that's fun.
Yeah. Like I always wish the same way that you could like wish you could go back and rewatch a film for the first time or read a book for the first time. I wish I could go back and listen to Master of Puppets for the first time.
Yeah.
Or I still remember when I first heard Ozzy Osbourne, and I remember someone lent me a DVD of what was in like a metal magazine,
Yeah.
and it was a live version of War Pigs from the 70s. And I remember that feeling. And every time I hear War Pigs, I think of like that feeling again. But I wish I could go back and experience it again, because there's nothing better than when you're a kid and you find that music that you like latch onto.
Dude, it was so pure back then too, like, because I'll talk to him about stuff and bands, and he loves White Zombie, like not Rob Zombie, he loves White Zombie. So, and I remember I'll talk to him, I'm like, dude, I remember riding the bus to school in 5th grade, and it was winter time, and you can see the blinking of the bus light on the snow, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to White Zombie on my headphones on my CD player, trying to make it not skip when we would hit a bump, you know. And you know, I got that CD from a friend, you know what I mean? And it was so like, it was so pure, and things were just handed off to each other. And then, you know, I tell him about when you started to be able to burn CDs. And we were like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm gonna burn you. And then you could burn MP3s on CDs, so you could burn, you know, 80, you know, 120 songs on one CD. And I remember just making playlists like all day, and then just going to school and just giving them to all my friends, you know. And that was so awesome. And it sucks for this generation because they're not going to be able to experience that, you know.
No, like a Spotify playlist just doesn't have that same weight of sending it to someone.
Right.
I send like music recommendations to mates and stuff still, but it's like through WhatsApp, and you know that they're gonna half read it, but they're gonna be doing something else. Well, when you were like younger and you gave someone a CD,
you go listen to the whole thing that night. Yeah.
But and then you knew it was good, because I remember I lent my mate a Chimera CD and I didn't get it back for 10 years.
Yeah, man. It like with everything, there's the good and the bad, you know, and it sucks. You know, I'll make playlists, you know, on my Apple Music, and I'll share them with him because he's got Apple Music, and I'll just send him stuff, and I'll be like, dude, here's a punk rock playlist, you know, and you know, send him a bunch of stuff, and you know, he's like, oh, I like this band Fear. These guys are awesome. And I'm like, hell yeah, you know. So it's funny. And then he like sent me a 80s playlist, and it had everything from I Want to Know What Love Is to like Salt and Pepper to like, it was so random, and I was just like, that's awesome, you know. So there's good in that, you know, to where they can seek out literally anything, and they, you know, but he still discovers Salt and Pepper, which is just like, you know, I'm proud, but I'm also disappointed.
Yeah, it's crazy that Salt and Pepper's a legacy act now.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, but like that kind of feeling, I think, is what makes like Roots fans really interesting, because it's not a mainstream genre in any way, shape, or form. So you know that when people find this type of stuff, they're music fans, and like they're digging deep into those things, because you kind of, I think Johnny Cash is like the gateway to when you listen to his American recording stuff.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like fall down the rabbit hole of things. But with your like Roots music and things, how have you seen it progress from, your first record to now and the kind of audience reaction to it as you've gone through?
So the first album I did with the Hangdog Hearts. So I've got 7. I have them hanging on my wall. Just to make sure I counted them right. I've got 7 that I've done total. The first one was with the band and those guys. Well, in the middle of recording, I lost the whole band. And those batch of songs, like I was writing to try to make them happy. One guy wanted to play like rebel roots, like Hank 3 style, like rebel country stuff. Another guy wanted to play like real rockabilly. Another dude wanted to play like, Dropkick Murphys type Celtic punk stuff. So I'm trying to write all these different songs to make everybody in the band happy because they all wanted to play different styles of music. And that kind of was what the first album was. It's not online. The first 4 albums aren't available anymore. I don't have them online or anything. But, from there to Sawe, I feel like Sawe was the first time that I was like, this is what I was really trying to get these songs to sound like all these years, and then each album, I think if anything's progressing and growing, it's just my ability for mixing and recording. I think that's getting better and better with each album. I can't remember who this was, some famous musician. Somebody's going to know that hears this, but he said you learn how to make records by making records. So I feel like that's all I'm doing is I just keep making albums, and I'm getting a little bit better and learning a little bit more each time,
Yeah. Cool, man. And what's the future? So you've got a new single or a new track from like the upcoming record coming out shortly?
Yeah, so end of this month, Standing in the Rain will be out. The end of this month. So the end of every month, I'm going to have a song out. And that should go till about September or so. The last couple songs, I might just release those at the same time, like the last 2 or 3 songs all at once. But and then to make way for hopefully something special on Halloween.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so hoping to get something nice and creepy out, people. So
yeah, cool, man. Well, we're hitting past the hour mark, and I don't want to keep you too long. Your afternoon, you've got a whiteboard of songs that I'm sure need your attention and stuff. But after you've got the Halloween thing, do you see like live shows coming back like around where you are, or what kind of the plans going forward?
Yeah, so right now I've got a handful of stuff booked, and kind of a lot of things. A lot. That's relative right now compared to last year. I got a ton of things booked. No, I've got a handful of things actually booked that are supposed to be happening. And then I've got things that are waiting, that they're waiting to see if the event's going to happen to where I'm going to play.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have more opportunities to play this year than last year, but it's definitely not going to be like normal life. I might have to keep creating opportunities to play. This past Friday, actually, when my last song, The Home, my newest song, came out, we actually had a concert at my church. They let me use their building.
Oh, cool.
And, it's a 23,000 square foot room and a cap of 2,200 people, but they had it dwindled to 700 people. And then, that was 700 was the cap for COVID reasons. So through a concert, and I think a couple hundred people came out, and it was awesome. And so I might have to look for more things like that to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Well, I'll let you go for the rest of the thing, but I'll definitely be looking at, like, keeping an eye out for your tracks that are coming up. And I'm always down for something creepy on Halloween.
All right. Awesome, brother.
And that is episode 26 of Into the Van, Into the Bag. I don't know how long I'm going to keep saying Into the Van, Into the Bag, but until people get sick of it, I guess I keep saying it. Yeah, If you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy the people I get to talk to, please tell your friends. Please go check out Austin Stirling's music. I've put links in the description of this podcast. Until the next time, guys, stay safe. Peace.